This is Sally. And Sally is curious about what impact does antibiotic resistance have on the spread of disease?
Well, stay tuned to find out the answer to Sally's very interesting question.
But first,
an antibiotic is a substance that inhibits the growth and replication of bacteria, or completely kills it. They are a type of antimicrobial that targets bacterial infections. However, they do not work on other pathogens such as viruses and fungi. There are two ways in which antibiotics target bacterial infections. They either stop the reproduction of bacteria by preventing DNA replication, allowing the body's natural defenses to kill the pathogens, or they kill the bacteria by preventing the mechanism that is responsible for building a cell wall. Have you ever been sick and needed to take antibiotics? Well, you can thank the creator of the first true antibiotic, penicillin, for the antibiotic you took. Prior to this creation, there had been fluctuating death rates from infectious diseases, and following it, there was a decline in deaths as indicated by the continual decline following its introduction in 1942. Penicillin allowed for effective treatment of bacterial infections, which was not seen in history before this, and at that time allowed infections that would previously have killed many to be treated and save lives. Penicillin also allowed for the development of other antibiotics that have been able to save numerous lives around the world. Antibiotics provide a very effective treatment option for bacterial infections, however they are not effective against other pathogens such as viruses. If antibiotics are used correctly, they can not only save lives but can curb an outbreak of a bacterial infectious disease, as they work quickly and can be administered efficiently. While antibiotics have been groundbreaking in controlling infectious diseases, the developed antibiotics are beginning to become ineffective as certain bacteria are developing resistance to them due to the overuse and misuse of antibiotics and the lack of new antibiotics being developed to combat the issue, reducing their effectiveness to control the spread of disease. Antibiotic resistance occurs naturally, however the overuse of antibiotics in humans and animals accelerates this process. When antibiotics are frequently and inappropriately used, it allows bacteria and other types of microbes to change and prevent antibiotics from working on them. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria occurs through mutations that are passed on or through horizontal gene transfers between bacterial species. As antibiotics continue to be overprescribed and overused, non-resistant bacteria are killed, allowing opportunity for resistant bacteria to reproduce as a result of natural selection. The misuse of antibiotics for other infectious diseases adds to antibiotic resistance, as when antibiotics are used to treat viral infections, not only does it not work, but it also kills bacteria within the body, which is beneficial or at least not causing disease. This misuse allows bacteria that is not harmful to develop antibiotic resistance and spread that to other potentially more harmful bacteria. An example is multi-drug resistant Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which is resistant to the two most anti-tuberculosis drugs, isoniazid and rifampicin. This bacteria continues to emerge and spread due to the mismanagement of tuberculosis treatment, including incorrect dosage, and the person-to-person transmission of the disease. Another example is Staphylococcus aureus, which is resistant to penicillin-type antibiotics. In the 1960s, 80% of cases were resistant. However, through close monitoring of the disease and improved hygiene measures, there has been a reduction of 84.7% from 2003 to 2011. The overuse of antibiotics ultimately leads to numerous bacteria that are resistant to the antibiotics that could previously treat and cure the infectious diseases they cause. And if the infections are no longer treatable through the simple use of antibiotics, then this poses a serious threat to human health, as bacterial infections can become life-threatening and can distinctly impact on a person's lifestyle. As the overuse of antibiotics becomes more significant in society, there is an increase in bacteria that is antibiotic resistant. This increases the risk of a person dying or becoming seriously ill from a bacterial infection. Not only this, but a result in longer recovery times, more frequent or longer hospitalizations, an increase in doctor visits, and potentially much more expensive treatment than before antibiotic resistance emerged as a health threat. Now, you may not be aware of this, but antibiotics are not only used on humans. They are used on animals as well. Just as antibiotic resistance is not solely caused by humans, it's caused by agricultural practices as well. Antimicrobials have allowed for the prevention, treatment, and control of infectious diseases in food animals, leading to a reduction in costs when infectious diseases spread rapidly through farms and livestock. Over 100 antimicrobials, including amphenicols and macrolides, have been used in food-producing animals around the world. When salmonidin was used in pigs, incidence of diarrhea in piglets was significantly reduced and the survival rate was increased by 13.95%. When antibiotics are used in agriculture, the preferred method of delivery is through the livestock's food and water supplies. However, in doing this, more antibiotics is used than will be consumed to ensure the animal ingests enough. This results in the extra antibiotics ending up in waterways as the excess food and water supplies are disposed of, allowing the antibiotics to enter the natural environment. This leads to an increase in antibiotic-resistant bacteria, whose genes are spread in microbial communities, which causes antibiotic drugs to become even more less effective in humans, increasing the threat of a global superbug. In addition to this, antibiotics are used to promote growth in livestock, which means healthy animals are exposed to antibiotics over long periods of time. And if the bacteria in these animals acquire a resistance gene, then treatment becomes ineffective, which is mainly a threat for agriculture. However, the bacteria in the animal's gut can transfer the resistance genes to microbes that are harmful to humans. This all increases the risk of bacteria becoming resistant to drugs, and therefore the possibility of a global superbug is not only increased, but poses a serious threat to human health. Now, how can a global antibiotic-resistant crisis be avoided? Well, I'm glad you asked, because there are a number of ways it can be avoided, and they are to a degree quite simple and straightforward. The most important being minimizing unnecessary prescription and overprescription of antibiotics, which mainly occurs when antibiotics are prescribed for viral illnesses, which they don't work against. It is also important that the entire course of antibiotics is completed so it can be fully effective and not spread resistance. Another way to avoid a crisis is through the reduction in use in antibiotics altogether, which basically means preventing bacterial infections through simple practices such as good hygiene and the use of appropriate infection control procedures in workplaces and schools to tackle the spread of infectious diseases. In addition to these, resistance can be avoided by the close monitoring of agricultural use of antibiotics and reducing the spread of antibiotics into the natural environment.